I thought I'd learnt my lesson the first time.
Just cranked it.
One of the back wheels shot straight out of the car.
It was in reverse and just took off across the car park.
Just absolutely annihilated my hand.
Door was open, completely bent this door all the way around.
3.5 or 4 grand for it, and I sold it for about 300 bucks to a wrecker.
Well, the campfire is roaring. We're at a beautiful campsite. We've got some questionable company. I reckon it's time for another campfire yarn. Boys, I'm going to give you full permission here to laugh at my pain, to revel in my misery, both physical and financial. So I'm going to tell you the story, the most unreliable four-wheel drive I ever owned. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. There's actually 2 of them. So boys, any guesses what do you reckon the most unreliable four-wheel drive I ever owned was?
Couldn't have been Toyota. Wouldn't have been.
What do you reckon?
Must have been a 3-litre Patrol of some sort.
Oh, you're almost there, mate.
Brenno, typical Brenno.
Lada Neva.
Never owned one, always wanted to own one. No, you were both actually combined them and you would have been right. It was a 3-litre V6 4-runner.
Oh, yeah.
So, pretty awesome four-wheel drives if you can keep them running. But those 3-litre V6s, they just hate life. In 18 months, I put 4 motors in that car. Those V6s, they just don't like working. They've got these terrible setups with the exhausts, where the crossover pipe runs behind the cylinder heads, and they just love doing head gaskets as soon as they overheat a little bit. I can't quite remember why I put 4 motors in it, like the exact reasons, but I know that one of them was full driving in mud, and before I got home to wash my car, it had overheated. And I do remember buying a motor out of, looking back, this is pretty dodgy, buying a motor off a bloke for 200 bucks cash, got it out of his backyard. It was sitting in the long grass. I basically put a spanner on the crank, got it to turn over, made sure it wasn't locked up, checked that it wasn't full of water, and gave him 200 bucks. And funnily enough, it actually was all right. But I don't know why. I thought I'd learnt my lesson the first time. Instead of just having one of those things, I actually bought a second one of them because they're actually pretty good four-wheel drives. They look cool. They've got all the right stuff. They've got the coiled rear, and they've got that really cool electric tailgate. The glass that goes up and down. Awesome bit of gear. And I thought I can fix this car if I put a V8 in it. Because everyone puts,
go wrong.
yeah, everyone puts those awesome 1UZ V8s in it, and they are legitimately an awesome engine. And I figured that'd solve it if the engine's the bad part, put a better engine in it. Just as I started buying the bits and pieces to do the conversion, up pops this 4Runner. It was about a year older than mine, but it was in beautiful condition, and it already had an engineered 1UZ in it. I bought this thing for an absolute song. I bought it for what it was probably going to cost me to get the parts to do the conversion on mine, let alone have to do all the work and get it engineered. What could go wrong? I'm going to tell you boys a lot, as it turns out. So, turns out that a car that's designed for a V6 at most, or more likely an old 4-cylinder diesel, doesn't really take kindly to a V8. And those things had, Khan, you're a Toyota expert, what do they have, like a good 150 kilowatts or something?
Around that, they reckon they had 280 horsepower.
Yeah, right.
That was the gentleman's agreement back in the day.
Yeah, right, yeah.
More than that.
So look, it went, and this thing sounded awesome, went really well, 5-speed behind it. But boys, that was without a doubt the most unreliable four-wheel drive that I've ever owned. It was nothing to do with the engine conversion. That was probably the best part about the whole car. So, I'll tell you a couple of stories. Coming back down the coast one morning, really early, I'd been up to see me folks up in Port Macquarie up the coast for the weekend. I was heading back to Sydney. It's about 4 a.m. I was coming through Heatherbrae, a few blokes know it there, and thought I'd just pull in, go do a little bit of Macca's, bit of brekkie. Well, you got to do the right thing. You got to support the local economies on trips.
That's it.
And as I took back off onto the highway, put the foot down a little bit, and I heard this clunk. I was like, gee, that doesn't sound good. I'll do the smart thing and I'll keep pushing on because I get to work. I got to, yeah, basically, yeah. I got to the very top of what was called the F3 back then, the top of the M1 at Rutherford, I think it is. In that left-hand lane as you're coming southbound, as I've come around the corner, the back right wheel, or the back left wheel, I can't remember, it was one of the back wheels, shot straight out of the car, along with the axle. Turns out that I think what that clunk was a blown wheel bearing, and that wheel just shot out of the car. And I ended up sideways, it's about 4:30 in the morning, still completely dark. Ended up sideways in this single turning lane. There's like B-doubles coming down the road. I got out, I locked the hubs in, I put it in low range, and I just dragged this thing up off the ground. Called a tow truck. I was NRMA's best / worst customer back in those days. Those roadside assists just paid for itself. Got it home, went to work, came home that night, had a bit of a look at it, and I'm like, all right, so it's dropped down on the axle. I'm gonna need a new axle. So I went and bought a new axle, got a new wheel bearing seal, all that sort of stuff. Went to put it in, and the seal wouldn't quite fit inside the diff housing, the inner axle seal. I'm thinking to myself, must have been when it's dropped down on the axle. I reckon it's like smashed the flange and it's splayed the flange out. That's a new diff housing. Yeah, righto, okay. So that weekend, went to a wrecker's, found a diff housing, dragged it home, and the old mate, the towie, had dropped the car as a narrow street, thinking of being helpful, dropped the car half on and half off the gutter. So here I am, starting to pull this diff out, like lying on the gutter, like pulling it out, doing the bench presses. I dropped the tail shaft out, pulled the diff center out, and as I pulled the diff center out, one of the side bearings, I think they're called carrier bearings or whatever they are, one of the large side bearings just completely cracked and fell out. And it wasn't a blown wheel bearing, it actually cracked that entire flange off the side of the diff.
Oh, no.
So that was one bit of pain. Slightly less than that, but still painful. Just one afternoon driving home from work. It's funny how, like, this wasn't even to do with four-wheel driving. Neither was the last story. Just driving home from work. I was about a kilometre from my house. There was a set of lights. It was raining. Went to turn right, and the upper ball joint on the right-hand side just gave way completely, and that thing just dropped straight down, snapped the shock in half, did all sorts of carnage, snapped the CV joint. That one, yep, call the towie again, get it towed home, and I was pretty much on first name basis with these blokes by now. Got it towed home, and that wasn't too eventful, that, you know, fixing it all, putting it all back together. It was just a case of just buying more second-hand parts and throwing them in. I'm actually starting to see a bit of a pattern here, boys. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't have been putting second-hand parts in this thing. Anyway, we'll leave that for another day. Okay, so those stories, while funny now laughing about them, weren't that eventful back in the day, like it was just breakages on the side of the road. But this next one definitely happened off-road, and it's, looking back, one of the things that I least fondly remember about any sort of four-wheel driving memory. So I was with the boys, we were doing a tough old weekend trip, and it was pouring rain. We were on these crazy red clay tracks. I got to this track that I just couldn't make it up. Had about 10 goes at it, and it was just slimy. It's like someone poured diesel on it. And I just said, boys, I'm going back. I'll meet you guys at camp. You guys go, they were already at the top of the hill. You guys head back to camp and I'll meet you there. And so I've turned around and it got to the point where this track did a hard dogleg left, followed by immediately a hard dogleg right, big Z shape, and it dropped right down, had these ruts and whatnot. I had an auto locker in the front of this thing. It was pretty good off-road, but it used to jam up the steering pretty hard if you weren't onto it. If you let the steering take over a little bit, you had no control. And before I knew it, I'd come around this left-hand corner, and picked up the left-hand dirt bank with the left-hand front wheel. It had spun the steering, jammed it into the dirt bank, and I swear in an instant, it had broken a CV, and I'd also managed to roll the back left tyre off the bead. So I was by myself, I was well out of UHF range. Oh, better seat this bead to start with, and then we'll just have a look at trying to winch our way out of here. So I get the off-road jack out, and I jack the back tyre up just so I can put the air compressor on and try and reseat this bead. And boys, I don't mind telling you, I did the wrong thing at this stage. I was rushing. We always say you've got to treat off-road jacks with respect because they can bite back and bite back hard. And this is how I learned it the hard way myself. So I'm in the middle of nowhere, it's pouring rain, I'm on the side of this crazy downhill section, jammed into a rock, and I slipped just as I was just about to click the next position on the jack. Had my hand on the inside of the upright piece of the jack, and the handle came back at full ball and just absolutely annihilated my hand. I just watched this thing blow up like a balloon, and I'm like, okay, cool. I just made a bad situation a whole lot worse.
Do you reckon you've broken it?
I don't remember what I did to this day, but it swelled badly for like 2 weeks, and I don't think I ever did anything about it, but that's what you're supposed to do, right? It eventually went down, and I've still got it, so it's there. So anyway, thought, okay, that's a warning sign, take things a lot slower. Put the tyre back on the bead, ended up having to winch myself sideways to pull the front tyres off the wall, and having to winch myself all the way back to camp pretty much. But that right there, okay, so looking back, again in the cold light of day, that last one probably was a little bit less to do with the unreliability of the car and more about the unreliability of the driver. And I can claim that, I'm a big enough man to claim that. But still, looking back, I swear I don't know what I was thinking the whole time I had that car. It seemed to be off the road more than the times that it was on the road. And I don't mean that from a four-wheel drive perspective, I just mean the fact that it was always broken. I was always broke trying to keep it running. But that's the story of the most unreliable four-wheel drives that I ever had. Toyota 4Runner. So boys, you've heard my pain, I want to hear your pain. Khan, most unreliable four-wheel drive we've ever had.
My problem is I just get decent four-wheel drives and then try and fix them.
At least Brenno's cars have been on the road for some period.
Yeah, I get them, take them off the road, fix everything, and then sell them for a massive loss. That's essentially what I do, rinse and repeat. So my four-wheel drives are pretty reliable, but it was, again, driver. It was my problem, my fault. Like when I was at work and I had two very identical Land Cruisers, both white, both medium wheelbases. One was a manual and one was an auto.
Is it a Bandera or?
Not a Bundy,
Don't say that.
not a Bundy, mid wheelbase. And as you typically do, you're standing around at the end of work chatting to your mates, and you'd start up your car and let it warm up. It's a diesel, let it warm up before you sit in traffic. Today, or this day, I forgot that I'd driven the manual and not the automatic. So I leant in, was speaking, just cranked it. It was in reverse and just took off across the car park. Door was open, completely bent this door all the way around. I did all sorts of stuff, bent the frame. So I started to drive it home like that. I think I just put the seatbelt through the, and put it around me. But I bought that about 2 weeks prior.
Yeah, you tried to get me to buy it.
Yeah, it was a good buy. You should have bought it.
No,
Would have been perfect.
what else happened to that car?
Well, about a week later, the engine exploded.
Perfect.
And that one wasn't user error, was it?
I had a small oil leak. And I put oil thickener in it to prevent the oil leak, just because it was trying to tide me over till my next oil change. And I was driving to work and it started making a bit of a ticking noise, and then it made a lot of a ticking noise, and then I lost all power, dropped all the oil. Yeah, snapped a piston ring, it went up above the piston, smashed into the valves. And
I can sympathise with you, mate. I had an old V6 Pajero back in the day with a very slight coolant leak. Smart person would just find the coolant leak and fix it, right?
Yeah.
I happened to get off a mate a whole box of stop leak satchels that his race car was sponsored by at the day. And look, I'm just going to say, it eventually stopped leaking when it seized the motor. Didn't leak anymore after that.
Yeah, mine stopped leaking too after I slowly pulled over the side of the road. There's no more oil left, it was fine.
Now, I have a bit of a confession to make also. I was stupid enough to buy a 3VZ 4Runner back in the day.
You feel my pain, mate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel the fuel bill. I bought it off a mate who was a good mate at the time. No, he still is, sorry if you're still listening. So I ended up buying this 4Runner. I can't remember what year model it was, but it had the dreaded 3VZ in it. I bought it off a mate out in Mudgee, and I got it, and to my knowledge, it was in good nick. I'd taken it out wheeling a couple of times and there was nothing wrong with it. He had actually, just before I purchased it, he'd just swapped in a new auto box into it. When he did it, something went wrong, and on my way home, it wouldn't go into overdrive, and so it was just revving like crazy all the way on the Castlereagh Highway to the Great Western Highway, all the way back to Sydney. And I think Mudgee's about 250, 260 k's away. I went through a tank and a half of fuel on the way back. And
Probably a tank and a half of oil.
yeah, exactly. And that thing was nothing but a dog the entire time I owned it. That was the only unreliable four-wheel drive I've ever owned. And like Khan, I sold it for a massive loss. I think I paid probably 3.5 or 4 grand for it, and I sold it for about 300 bucks to a wrecker.
I saw you coming, mate.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know what it is with you guys buying bodged Toyotas, but I did the right thing. Straight to a car that come with a V8. Big ball crawler behind me, you know, it can't go wrong. But straight to a modern car, no dramas here.
You know what? You're dead right there, mate. One of the boys at work has a stock standard D-Max. He was the first of all the boys, Matt, to buy a new four-wheel drive, and once he bought that, I saw the light. I reckon the best four-wheel drive is the one that starts when you hop in and turn the key, without a doubt.
Like, you can't go wrong, like, that's brand new and, you know, it hasn't skipped a beat and I don't expect it to. It's a Toyota, you know, like.
Oh, well, well clearly not.
Just you two boys got the short straw by the look of it.
Yeah,
I'm feeling personally targeted.
me too. How dare
Do the
you?
right thing and buy a V8 from the start.
So guys, I'm sensing a little bit of a pattern here. Old four-wheel drives, unreliable. Also ones that are messed with by people who are not mechanics, definitely unreliable. I would love to hear from you, sharing our pain. What was your most unreliable four-wheel drive? Jump down in the comments and let us know. And if you like this yarn, then hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up because we've got more coming your way. And don't go changing that channel because I've got your next video right there.